Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've not been on here in a minute. So for my newbies, let me tell you what this channel is all about. So I actually created this channel because I have over 15 years of ballet and dance industry experience. And when I was younger, a lot of these videos that I'm giving you are videos that I needed at that age when I was growing up and I really wanted to become a professional ballerina. But there's so many questions I had and so many questions that I didn't even know to ask that I wish someone would have given me this information. So that is why I created this channel. I'm very happy you are here. Before you forget and before I forget, why don't you go ahead and subscribe so you never miss a video. Hit that like button. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most asked questions I get on all my social media platforms. And that is, how many hours should I be dancing every week if I want to become a professional ballerina? So the short answer is one that you're probably not gonna like, but it's the truth, is that it really depends, honestly, on a number of factors, and we're gonna break those down right now. I will give you guys an answer that you'll probably like a little bit better in terms of hours, class structure, studios, and things like that towards the end of the video. But let me get into the first part of this, which is that it really depends, honestly. So what do I mean, it depends? Basically what I'm saying is, depending on your body type, your natural flexibility, your work ethic, these are all factors that really go into how many hours you're actually gonna need to train to become a professional ballerina. And what I noticed growing up was that there was dancers that had natural flexibility, natural turnout, natural arch of their feet, natural ballet aesthetic that I had to work really hard for. I didn't have natural flexibility. I didn't have natural turnout. These were hours that I needed to invest in every single week to get those things that these ballet companies are looking for. And so when I say it depends, what I really mean is, where are you at right now and where do you need to be to start auditioning for dance companies? You might also find that you're very strong in your turns, or you're very strong in your petit allegro, but your grand allegro is very weak, or your port de bras needs a lot of work, and the girl next to you, she might have all those things. So you have to work double time to catch up to her, to beat her out in the audition, so to speak, right? So when you go to a dance teacher or someone that's a professional and you say, hey, how many hours did you train every week? That's all contingent on where they started, right? So I didn't have to train extra hours every week to have a strong and flexible arch in my foot. That was something that came natural, but I know so many girls in my classroom that they didn't have that naturally. So they were buying foot stretchers, they were stretching outside of class, searching up YouTubes and doing follow-alongs to build that strength in the feet. I'm talking maybe an extra 5 hours every week just to get that arch in their foot that dance companies are looking for, and that's just one example, you guys. Like, we know that there's so many other things that go into making yourself stand out in an audition. So I know that's not what you really want to hear. What you really want to hear is, just tell me a set amount of hours every week that I have to dance to go pro. And I think that's really the wrong question to be asking. I think what you should ask instead is, what is it that these dance companies are looking for that I can be working towards, right? There's so many companies out there that you could train your whole life. You could be the quote unquote perfect ballerina and have zero flaws in your technique, but they're never gonna accept you. So let's say, for example, that you are a classically trained Vaganova dancer and your dream is to get into SAB, right? And you have elaborate port de bras and you are very expressive at the bar. That might not be something SAB is necessarily looking for, and that doesn't necessarily make you a good or a bad dancer. That doesn't mean you should have worked extra hours or worked less hours or what have you. It just means that they're really looking for a certain kind of dancer, and maybe they don't want to retrain you or teach you their ways because someone else right next to you at the audition has exactly what they're looking for. And I think that's a big misconception, and why I don't think you should be phrasing the question, how many hours should I be working every week? I think you should say, what is my ideal company and what is it that they're looking for? So For example, some of my dream companies were Joffrey and the one that starts with a P. Come on, Gabby. Pacific Northwest Ballet. Now I lost my train of thought because I went to go Google it. Was Joffrey Ballet and Pacific Northwest Ballet. I knew that these companies favored, or at least were more open to accepting roles for dancers that were taller. I'm 5'11", and most contracts ask for a dancer that is no taller than 5'7", okay? So instead of being like, how many hours can I train every week to get into ABT, I knew that ABT was probably gonna have a harder time accepting the dancer that was 5'11". Mind you, they have to find partners for that person versus the person that's 5'5" right next to me and had flawless technique, okay? So I knew that if, let's say I wanted to get into one of these companies, I had a lot of that physical quality that they were already looking for, right? So it just came down to technique. I had to clean up my technique. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I was not naturally flexible. I didn't have natural turnout. So I'm gonna tell you how many hours I was training every week outside of class to get those things. So I was training on average, I would say with Pilates, private lessons, stretching at home, you know, doing exercises for technique and getting that flexibility, probably an additional 10 hours every week outside of class. My classes every week, so I did about 2 classes every day, sometimes even 3 classes. So it was like a technique class, a point class, and a class that was a level below me just to get that training in. That was, so let's say maximum 3 classes a week. 3 times 5 is 15. I would say an additional couple hours on Saturday. I would say about 20 hours every week in training just with classes, right? So that already right there is about 30 hours of training that I was doing every week to get to that level of getting to an audition and feeling confident that I have all those things. I've accounted for my weaknesses. I've accounted for the things that I don't have naturally. And I feel strong in the things that I do have naturally, right? So I think that's kind of what you guys are looking for is like, okay, how many hours do I need to be dancing every week? And if I were to give like a straight answer across the board and pretend that you guys are all on the same pile, let's say that you guys are all the same height, all the same flexibility, all the same turnout, all the same technique, I would say you need to be doing at least a class per day. And that doesn't include point, right? Just straight technique class, I would say a class every day at minimum. Ideally, I would say you should be doing 2 classes a day if you can afford it. And that's another factor that comes into play is you're gonna be paying for these additional classes. Hopefully your studio allows a program that maybe offers unlimited classes every week. That's something you need to sit down and talk to your parents about. So just keep that in mind too, is like, if you're really gonna go all the way with this, you gotta understand it's gonna be a financial commitment too. So be sure to bring that up with your parents. So that's what I would say. I would say also focus on the things that you're really weak on, because maybe you don't need to take a whole additional class. I can tell you for sure, looking back on it, taking 3 classes a day was probably a little bit too much for me. I mean, by the 3rd class, I was so exhausted. I was kind of just going through the motions. And so I wouldn't advise that to my younger self. If I went back in time, I'd say do 2 classes, give it your all, and go home and get your homework done, you know? So really focus on your weaknesses, focus on the points where you know that you need improvement. Maybe that doesn't take a whole class. Maybe you don't need to do plie, tendu, dégagé, grand battement. You're strong in all those things already. Maybe it's just taking an additional 30 minutes to work on your turns on the left, or work on your grand allegro, or work on your flexibility. It doesn't need to be a whole class, you know, a whole hour and a half extra every day that consumes your time. And you could put that towards knocking your homework out so that you can put more time on the weekends or in the evenings towards dance. Do you get what I'm saying? So I know this is probably not all the answers that you were hoping for, but if you guys have more questions, can you please ask them in the comments? I love to answer all your questions and just give back all the knowledge that I've learned over the years and put you in a better place than I was in. So thank you so much for coming here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.